Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Second Guessing with Stressans. I'm your host, Garret Williams, aka Texans commenter. And today we have a very, very special guest, executive director, first time of the Senior Bowl, Drew Fabianich. Drew, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Just thrilled that it's over with, to be honest with you, and ready to roll into the next one. We're already cleared the board already.
Yeah, and as I expressed prior to hearing our conversation, I'll just say it again now. I am super appreciative of you and Molly and the entire staff putting this thing on. And, for people like me who's kind of become like an independent journalist, so to speak, giving me that opportunity to go there. I actually, I covered the Texans. I actually ran into the Texans offensive line coach, Cole Popovich, who recognized me by name, had a conversation with him. Same thing with Nick Caserio and Frank Ross, the GM and special teams coordinator for the Texans. So, without you, on top of all the coverage of the players, that wouldn't have happened. So thank you for that. And also, too, we had talked about prior, this is your first time, so it's a big deal. But then you throw in a crazy national ice storm on top of, already having tough logistics. Can you speak about, you and your staff and how things went and those challenges you faced your first time?
I'll try to condense it down, but I can't even tell you how grateful I am and how phenomenal my staff was because it came from a meteorologist, a local meteorologist, actually kind of giving us a heads up of exactly what was going to happen, and my football ops, Jack Gilmore, visiting with me about it, then him visiting with Elizabeth Dupree, the COO. We had to, check we had rooms available to bump up flights. It wasn't just flights out of Dallas; it was flights out of Miami, Charlotte. I mean, we had to look at everything, and just to get them in 3 days early, because if we would have waited till Sunday when we normally brought everybody in, I'm not so sure we wouldn't have had maybe 20 players here that would have made it. But we got everybody in but one by the time Monday rolled around. And I can't even tell you how grateful I am of the staff, just everybody pitching in and, getting the rooms ready, the meals ready, twisting around. Because again, we had to pivot like in a matter of probably 16 hours, and we pivoted really, really well. And to get those guys down here and to get this, pulled off the way we did, kudos to everybody on staff. I mean, every full time, every volunteer, the meteorologist that gave us the heads up. I mean, I called the DFW, airport authority to ask hey, when's the ice really going to be there? They're like midnight. I was like, well, we need to get everybody off the ground before midnight if we're doing that. We had to look at connections. I mean, I think when it was all said and done, it may have been close to about 170 different changes on flights. So it wasn't easy, and I'm really thankful for what they did.
That's incredible. I mean, that speaks to, you and your team's ability to adapt and adjust. I mean, that's kudos to you guys. And, being there as a journalist covering the event, I would have never known that that was an issue, just because the way y'all handled it. So, before we dive into, the actual event itself and some players and kind of getting your input, because you're basically like, you were a former scout, but you're basically a scout now, building your draft board for this event. Can you kind of give the listeners just a brief, background? Obviously, you were a scout for the Cowboys as well as a GM at Auburn and West Virginia. Kind of like just talk through your quick football journey and how it's led to where you are now.
Quickly, I'm a coach's kid. Grew up on the sideline. I was on the sideline from 6 years all the way up. I coached for 17 years. I coordinated both sides of the ball, which not a lot of people can say. I coached every position but running back, tight ends, and offensive line. Then I went into personnel with the Cowboys for 18 years. Ended up being the national scout for them 14 out of my 18 years. Left to go be the general manager at Auburn for 1 year, and then I was the GM at West Virginia for 2 years. Got a great opportunity to come down and be the executive director of the Panini Senior Bowl, and every piece of my skill set is brought into this position. Whether it's I can talk to coaches differently because I coached. They understand me a little bit more because I can speak their language. The fundraising piece of it, the coaching piece of it, the being in front of people, the public speaking piece of it, the scouting piece of it, building a board. Like I said, everything I went through for the last 38 years has prepared me for a position like this. And I do wear a lot of different hats, and I think that that's a good thing. Now it's hectic at times, and like the good Lord was testing me last, during that week because it was hard. But again, it all worked out. And again, I just feel very comfortable with every hat that I do have to wear. And I'm very, like I said, I'm also very grateful, for Phil Savage, for Jimmy Nagy, because they set this up to where this is just like, a pro system. We have built just like a pro scouting, I mean, not a pro, but a college scouting department in the NFL. 4 full-time, scouts in the building, including me, and then 10, part-time area scouts on the road that, go to games and actually evaluate tape for us. And, we give them lists, they cross-check us, we meet them in October, and then we cross-check them, and it's cycled just like an NFL ball club. And that's why I think that we're so successful in putting out, such a good roster and understanding the value of the player. And I'd like to think now, again, and I may be wrong, but our initial 140 that came in the building to start out with, and I think that all of those players will get drafted this year. And that's what I want to sell to agents, to players, because if you come to the Senior Bowl, which is the premier all-star game, always has been, always will be, because 28 GMs showed up, just like you said. You saw Nick, you saw tons of guys from Texans. Well, he was one of many. 12 head coaches showed up. Over 30 head coaches from colleges that had players in the game showed up here to see their players. Where can you go to see more draftable players in one place at one time? Nowhere. Nowhere. So I probably elaborated too much on that, but
No.
that's kind of where.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said what I thought. Like as you're saying it, my thought is like you are tailor made for this position, and the NFL. Like I've learned over the years, like this is such a valuable asset to them, and then like being there in person and seeing all the different personnel there, like this is invaluable. Obviously, evaluating on the field environments, players against good competition, different positions, but also you realize too they get a chance to meet with these, a physical point of contact to get to talk to these players. But I'll have to ask you, from a Texans point of view. But I guess before I get into that, I would like for you to kind of notate, people, obviously the scouts know how to evaluate this game on what to weigh and not overweigh, but fans and media, there may be things about the game and the practice, the way it's designed, where it may benefit the defense here or the offense there. Is there a certain lens to look through at these practices and these tapes to make sure and not overweight or underweight certain things?
Well, I mean, I think that the bottom line is that when you start, you have to have the traits to play in the NFL. If you're not big enough, athletic enough, I mean, if you don't have enough speed, I mean, it all comes down to athletic traits and height, weight, and speed. And now there's some smaller guys that can be successful, but they also have very good, dynamic athletic ability too that lends themselves to being successful. So when you're looking at players, I mean, there's a lot of times when you look at players and you go, well, he's a good college football player, but there's only 2,400 spots in the NFL. These guys are the best in the world. And like I try to tell agents that sometimes say something to me about, why is my guy not getting in? I said, well, now think about it this way. This is 140 of the best players in the country. And if you look at your player and you go, I'm not sure, don't call me. Don't call me, because this is the best against the best. And that's why people elevate themselves here over anywhere else, because, and I'm not dogging out any program whatsoever, but there are certain times, and I tell the players this, they say, what should I expect coming down? I said, you better expect a really competitive environment. And I said, some of the guys you lined up against over the last 3 or 4 years, I said, some will be working at UPS next week. Well, the guys here will be playing on Sundays. So understand the magnitude of this game. And when they say the draft starts in Mobile, it does. And the league wants you to go through this process to fulfill the rest of the process. And what I mean by that is that they want you to come down here. They want you to be coached by pro coaches. They want you to show that you're accountable, you're responsible, you can learn, right? And you're mature and you do things the right way. Well, then you get in front of everybody to interview, right? Make sure that you understand how to communicate. They're going to find out how you learn, right? Then you're going to go out there and you're going to practice and you're going to play. And that shows the NFL teams that you love to play this game, because if you don't love to play and you go into any locker room, any organization, if you don't love it, the locker room will eat your ass alive. It will weed you out quickly. And I mean that by veterans, the veterans know, and they don't want to have somebody around them that's not of the same like attitude as them. So this is just part of the process. And what I mean by just the whole process is now you do the Senior Bowl, then it's the combine, right? Then it's your pro day. Then it's the 30 visits. If you're a part of 30 visits, and everybody says, "Oh, it's the top 30." No, it's not. No, it's not. It's ones you like. There's ones you may have questions about, or maybe even free agents that you bring in that you want to sell a little bit to, because you may have to fight for them in free agency. So, but that's the process. And if you fulfill the process and you do everything the right way, then the red flags don't pop up, because the red flags are what decreases you. I always said it was separators. You start here, and then it's like, okay, red flag, bam, you lose value. Another one, bam, you lose value. And it's a separator, because the higher you get drafted, the cleaner you need to be, because you're on your own. And a lot of these guys have done nothing for themselves since they were ninth graders. They've always had somebody to hold their hand. They've always had somebody walking them through it. They've had a handler. They've had an assistant coach. They've had a parent. Whatever. Guess what? You walk into an NFL locker room, you're on your own. Mm-hmm. So understand the process, and the process rewards you for doing things the right way, because there are guys that have not done the process the right way that have lost a lot of value, a lot. And everybody goes, well, why? Well, because you didn't do things the right way. You didn't show.
And then when you see that player go in the league and have, work ethic issues or drive issues, it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, yeah. Like you said, this is a box to check off to prove that. And this is kind of a good segue, into, my next topic is, I'm not sure if you're aware at the Texans, D'Amico and Nick Caserio, they use the moniker Swarm, which is basically what you're saying. Like anybody they draft, pretty much everyone on their team, but more so in the draft, they have to fit the Swarm, which is special work ethic and relentless mindset. So basically high character guys that love the game, that'll work hard, that are good teammates. And so with that being said, like what I'd like to do is kind of go through what I believe to be positions of need, even though, not everybody drafts off need, but, you might, potentially fill those spots. And based off what you saw from the Senior Bowl, guys there that might be good fits for the Texans. The first one, obviously, offensive line is always a big thing for the Texans. So are there some offensive linemen that are tackle, interior? I mean, they could use both. They use guys that are flexible. Any guys that come to mind that might be good fits for the Texans?
I mean, I think the one that probably not surprised everybody, but increased his value, and I try to pronounce his name correctly all the time, but Maxi Iheanacho. I mean, talk about like not a lot of football background and is raw to the game, but super athletic. I mean, and did a really good job of using his length. And I mean, he bends well. I mean, he's got a ton of upside, and I would not be surprised if he jumps some of the other tackles that were, quote, rated higher than him, the ones that, may not have decided to come down here, but he showed that he can compete against the best down here and did a really, really good job. Jennings Dunker, played tackle, but he showed he could play guard. His teammate Stevens, I mean, it could go center guard too. The kid from Maryland, Heron, probably going to end up being a guard. Delby Lemieux, the one we brought in from Dartmouth. Mm-hmm. Not a big man, but about probably 305, 308. Really good athlete and really good zone scheme fit. I mean, I could go on and on about a lot of these guys, but, a lot of them showed that they're really good players. Like Jake Slaughter had a good week. I mean, mm-hmm. Barber had a good week. I mean, there was a lot of guys that showed really well and did a really good job. And again, I could go on and on about, a lot of them, but, I think there was only probably about one or two that did not perform well. And it was more so in the game than it was practice. But again, they're going to have to fight a little bit of that, because again, when you ratchet up in a game and it's competitive, I mean, it's a little bit different than practice. So, I mean, guys want to watch the game. Guys want to evaluate, scouts want to evaluate the game, not just the practice.
Yeah, and that's one thing too. I noticed like when you're watching one-on-ones too, like, and obviously the first day you're in shells, and I felt like the advantage was to the defense overall. You know, there's no blitzing, but you can run stunts, and if you're on the O line, you got a bunch of new people you're not aware of how they communicate passing off stunts. So I felt that it could be overweight. You watch a one-on-one rep that's already designed for the defensive end when you know it's a pass. But like if you kind of watch throughout the week, I noticed the offensive line throughout the days did better and better, especially team drills. But another guy that I liked, and maybe you can add on him, and I'll give you a couple more names, but Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Tech. He was a guard who, seems to have that finishing mindset. I know Jordan Reed, the draft analyst, said that he was so aggressive and so to the whistle, like the coaches had to ask him to back off. Sam Heck, the center from Kansas State, I noticed him. A lot of people talk about him as well. I mean, to me, he was like a technician. I mean, he did really well. And I thought Brockenmeyer, the center from Miami, isn't getting enough love. I thought he was locked down in one-on-ones. Any more thoughts on those three guys?
No, not at all. I mean, I think you actually nailed that. I mean, like I said, I could have went on, and like you said, Brockenmeyer for being slightly undersized lengthwise, I mean, held up really well, especially against some of those big jokers. Now, he held up well against Caleb Banks, which
Caleb Banks.
is not easy now because Caleb works some people now down here. Like you said, Keelan Rutledge, great gap scheme guy. I mean, is he really a wide zone fit? No, but man, I'm gonna tell you what, now he's a mauler now. He'll eat your ass alive in a phone booth. Well, shouldn't even say phone booth. Half the people won't even know what I'm talking about. A shoebox. How about that? We say shoebox.
There you go. That'll work.
And again, you're correct. And I think people overestimate the one-on-one drills because, I mean, one-on-one pass rush is a defensive drill that should be won 90% of the time by defense. And one-on-one receivers versus DBs should be won 90% of the time by the receiver because it's too much field. There's nobody else out there, And again, I think some of that goes and gets way too much, and there's too much flash. Give you a perfect example. I mean, the Daryl Jackson rep, and they didn't show the second rep when
with Bell from Miami.
No, it was actually it was Bo Stevens, and
oh, gotcha, yes,
he bull rushed him the first time, and he called him back out for the second rep, and then he pancaked it. I mean, not pancaked him, but he trapped him right on the neck.
Was that the team compete at the end rep?
No, that was at one-on-ones.
That was a one-on-ones, okay.
But again, you saw that one go viral, but you didn't see nobody included the second rep of him, flat out, snatching him down. So again, it can be brought out the wrong way with the wrong clip, And
I guess in the end that doesn't matter. That's just fans and media. Like the scouts know. Like Bell, the Miami tackle, his first rep, he got knocked on his butt, but he was kind of like heavy. And then the rest of the time, like he did good, but like in everyone's mind, like, oh, this guy's bad because I saw this one rep. So that's got to be tough. I mean, as long as they know the perspective, like that's not reality, I guess.
No, it's not. Like the kid last year, the one from Oregon that got the pass rusher from Marshall, right?
Yeah, I mean, Mike Green.
Yeah, he got one rep on him, and guess what? The tackle still went a hell of a lot higher than Mike Green did. I mean, so again, you can go viral on a rep, but is it really during the game? Show me that during the game. Like Nacho, some of his reps during the game were really good. I mean, really good.
I need to go back and dive more into the game. I watched most of practice, but just kind of continuing along, again, these are as a fan analyst, my projections. I was looking for a blocking tight end with receiving upside. Sam Roush is somebody I was really keyed in on. Somebody like Tanner Koziel, he seemed more like a receiver. Nate Borkacher from A&M surprised the heck out of me. He seems like he could be a late round steal. Will Kazmarek was a guy from Ohio State that seemed like a good blocker. So if you could elaborate on those guys or any just tight ends that may fit like, the inline blocker that can have receiving upside.
I think it was a really good mix, and that's what I tried to do. There's some guys that are truly wise, and you mentioned Borkercher, you mentioned Kazmarek, and you mentioned Roush. I mean, those guys, and I throw another one in there that was kind of like people really didn't have a heads up on was Hibner. Hibner is actually not bad in line also. The rest of those guys were FH guys. Those were the detached wise, the guys are FHs that are receiving tight ends like Justin Jolly had flipping great week. Kozel is a receiving tight end. I mean, he doesn't block well in line, but Roush Kazmarek is a really good blocker in line. And again, I think you nailed it. put this way, I wouldn't be so sure now. Borkircher may not be a late round guy. I mean, he'd be more the mid round guy. I'm just telling you because he does everything pretty well. I mean, there's, him and Roush are kind of a little bit closer than people think because they're both good at everything, but they're just not dynamic at, any of it. Kasmeric, I wish he was a little bit faster and a little bit more of a, as a receiving threat. But man, in line, he's solid now. I mean, another 30 pounds, he might be a tackle.
Yeah, I mean, him on those like split actions, kicking out edges, man, like he is pretty violent. And honestly, I was not expecting much when watching one-on-ones. Again, we know it's tailored to the offense to win, but like he surprised me. He had good separation, and then Borkature, man, I mean, he was making catch after catch. Like he showed the ability to get off the ball. He was stacking the DB. He was making contested catches. He had some that were like in the end of practice, going up and getting it. So yeah, I agree. I mean, Borkature is not getting talked about enough. I mean, again, I'm hyper focusing on this one event, maybe the bigger picture maybe at play, but
well, I'll tell you what now. I don't think I'll bet you coming in, I don't think the league had a very high grade on him at all. And I'm thinking that he might have increased himself almost a round and a half, almost 2 rounds, just by what he did down here. I mean, and Roush, kind of everybody knew what Roush is. I mean, Roush is a good, solid player. And, again, I think somebody's going to be real happy with him too.
Yeah, I would be very happy as a Texans fan with either. So moving along as far as positions to ask you to evaluate, another need for us, I think, is a defensive tackle. The Texans have several free agents there. We talked about Caleb Banks, so you can talk about him. I got to talk to him too. His mentality, his mindset is awesome, and he seems like his upside is just insane. But I also noticed too, when I was watching one-on-ones, again, we know the context, but anytime I watched an interior defensive line with a maroon helmet, they dominated. Cameron Ball, you had Keenan from Alabama. I believe there's another one, but anybody with like a maroon helmet to me stood out as an interior defensive lineman. So if you could just talk about some of those guys.
I think, like you said, I think there's some guys that have, some 3 technique traits, but I think there's actually, some nose tackles that actually are a little bit more than just plug rushers. I said they kind of got a little big, sexy to them. Like Chris McClellan has got some pass rush to him. Gosh, Bryson Eason showed up, as a 3 tech. I mean, twitchy. I mean, disruptive. He uses Cameron Ball. I mean, Rayshon Benny. I mean, showed up as a 3. He could also play he could play a 2. And wear people out with his hands. Gosh, I mean, you hit on some of them, but again, Tim Keenan. I mean, solid nose tackle and he's got more push, but. Is he twitchy as a rusher? No, but man, he's going to eat 2 all the time. I mean, Durant showed up. I mean, a lot of guys showed up, and I was pleased with just the way they played. And again, in the game, Rashawn Benny and Eason played really well. They did, and they showed people that they could play 3 tech, which is a valuable piece if you're in that front.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's crazy too. Like if you watch the Texans with D'Amico every year, you're like wanting them to spend big or draft a defensive interior lineman, but they normally go the NFL journeyman route. And as a fan, you're like, who's this guy? And they come here and they thrive in the scheme. So it would be nice, to see them get a draft pick and see what they can do with some talent and some upside. But just kind of moving along, another position would be running back. Again, I think, and maybe you can elaborate on this, but it's kind of hard to get a true evaluation on a running back, especially in practice. Like my opinion, it's not full ever, go to the ground. So you don't quite know, but I still thought that there were some good things to see. Washington Jr. from Arkansas, because I was so keyed in on other positions. He stood out of the corner of my eye like 5 or 6 times. Like I just see like someone catch a ball and I'm like, oh, who caught that? I'm like, that was a running back who caught that. And Mike Washington Jr. was great. Allen from Penn State as well. If you could kind of just elaborate in the running back room and what you observed there.
I'll tell you what now. I mean, until Nick Singleton, until he injured his foot, I mean, he was having a really good week also. I mean, people forget how damn good he was. He didn't have a great year this year, but he came down here and really performed well. I'll tell you the one that, I can kind of, just brag up on a little bit was Jaden Hott. I mean, limited production at Oklahoma. I tried to sign him out of the portal. West Virginia when I was there because the Cal tape was really good. And he not only showed that he can, be a good pass receiver and a good running back, but he also stepped up there in pass protection for a smaller body. But like you said, the reason why you noticed Mike Washington, because you heard Mike Washington too. I mean, there was a lot of pop to him even when they were just doing thud. And he did a really good job. Showed he can run for a big man, and man, he's a big man now. He played really well. Gosh, kid from Kentucky, even the FIU kid. I mean, showed up and did a really good job. I wish Moss would have been cleared medically to come down here, but again, he wasn't, so I couldn't bring him down here. But a good group, and like you said, Katron Allen, did a good job. He kind of hurt his ankle a little bit, but he'll be fine. Violent dude, and he's kind of got that thumper kind of feel to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he actually showed he could catch the ball too, and he's not bad in space.
And I guess just kind of finish up, we'll kind of, as positions go, other positions, linebacker, safety. I noticed a couple, like obviously Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh. He had a great, he probably had one of the best coverage performances I've seen of anything, as far as a linebacker. Bud Clark from TC was another guy that kind of stood out. So if you can kind of touch on, linebacker and safety guys that stood out to you.
Jacob Rodriguez
Yes. Yep.
did a really, really good job. Fought through a toe that, he had issue with. I mean, he's going to be fine, but, tough kid. I mean, showed that he can play in space, showed he can play a downhill guy, take on blocks. Kyle Lewis was good, in coverage. Still probably a little bit of question whether you can take on blocks and, be a half-ass thumper inside. Bryce Betcher played really well in the game. He got better every day. And coming off as long as he played to play as well as he did a really good job. He probably elevated himself probably a round and a half just by what he did down here. Sorry. I already knew he could play in space. But he actually, showed that he had good instincts coming downhill and taking some run throughs and did some really nice things. Elam Zor from TCU can run. I mean, he is a thumper and, a very good blitzer, as a Mike backer, kind of reminded me of Brady James a little bit. And, he's got some of those same tools, but he actually showed that he can play in coverage also, which helped him. A good group, kind of top to bottom. And again, I don't think it's a deep group as far as the class goes, but I think if you can get somebody within the first 3 rounds, I think you might have somebody that, could possibly start for you. That past that, it's probably kind of a bunch of backups, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's, for the Texans, I think they're probably fine. But D'Amico is somebody, he gets a late round backer. He can develop them and take time to do that. So I think that's still a fit there. But I got to ask you too, so I played football at Stephen F. Austin years ago, as well as Incarnate Word after that. But Charles Demings, I had a chance to speak with him. If you could just talk about him, and I'll just say I didn't know much about him going into it, and then talking to him and then seeing the video y'all posted after practice, him expressing his faith and telling guys he just met how much he loved them. Like, I was very blown away by his mentality. But if you could talk about Charles Demings from what you observed from him.
I was going to ask you, were you blown away by the person? Because I was.
Insane.
I mean, you got to see the text he sent me after the game. I mean, I was like, people like you are the reason why I love doing this, because, again, he was incredible. I told people, I don't know how he ended up staying at Stephen F. Because if I would have saw that kid on tape, I would have put him in a P4 program like overnight. It's great that they kept him. He did a really good job against the competition that he had. Because I noticed him against Houston, and that's why I went, maybe we ought to start looking at this guy a little bit closer. And I was like, let's bring him down and see how he competes against everybody else. And he did a really good job. I said he was a little bit like Malik Muhammad with no resources, because he's long. He's got really good foot speed for his length. He uses his length well. He doesn't waste a lot of steps. He's kind of clean. He's smooth. I don't know if he's going to start right off the bat, but I would not be surprised 2 years from now if they're talking about him as a really solid starter in the league. And
That's awesome.
What a great person too. And again, I don't say that about many people, but he walks in the room, he lights up a room, and then he's just real.
I noticed that from a brief 2-minute conversation and just that clip. And then the thing I noticed on tape too is the way he finishes. He plays through the whistle. There was some plays on one-on-ones where it might have been a catch, but he fought through, and that was something that stood out to me. But Drew, we're right at the time, to let you go here, but I really appreciate this once again. If there's anything else you want to share as parting words, as far as, to stay locked into you guys, or ways we can support, or any parting messages before we go.
Well, make sure that, I mean, again, you said you came down and experienced this for the first time, right? For people that don't understand, they need to see this in person. They really do. And again, I always say this, and this is not a sell, but where can you go and watch more draftable players in one place at one time? And it's nowhere. It's here. That's it. So again, whether you come to the game, whether you come to practice, I mean, this is an event. And if it wouldn't have been for the cold, I think we would have had a sellout again. But I mean, I was really impressed with how many people we actually did have in the stands because it was pretty damn cold that day. So, I mean, I've always been pleased with the game. I was always glad to be part of the game. Now I'm even happier to be part of this community because they've embraced me and I've embraced them. And, you know, I just want to make this, you know, just grow exponentially every year. And we're going to have bigger and bigger sponsors, you know, every year. And, you know, I want people to want to be part of this because it's huge. And if you hadn't experienced it, you don't get it.
I agree, and I think I learned something, and maybe you can confirm this, but the practices are open to the public to attend, correct? You don't have to be
Correct.
credentialed. So that is like, all right, I'm gonna go tell my buddies who just love football, like, hey, come hang out with me, and then I'll go on the field for 10 minutes, but make it a week or whatever,
Absolutely. I mean, and the ticket prices are very inexpensive. I mean, compared to any other place you'd go. I mean, trust me, you know, you'd be surprised what an Alabama and Auburn ticket costs plus the parking. I mean, we're not even close to that. You know, you could have a family of four and not spend $200. You know, not even spend $200.
Yeah,
So
that's incredible value.
yeah,
I'll definitely be, spreading the word for you. I'm sure it doesn't need much, but I'm definitely an ambassador for you guys. And I'll close it out here, Drew. I'll say my goodbyes to you once we end the recording. But thanks again. You guys stay tuned. And knowing Nick Casario, he loves to draft from the Senior Bowl, so I'm sure we'll see some of those names. But until next time, we'll see you guys later.
yeah, appreciate y'all. Thanks for having me.
All right.